Hang on.
We're rolling.
We got it.
And we're rolling.
Action.
Is that thing on?
There we go. Now connect.
I am connected. I'm not connected.
No, you're not.
Bluetooth.
Fucking idiot.
We got it. It should link right in time. Ready? Oh, wait for it.
What's happening?
Yeah. Are we just gonna roll with this? Is this the? I guess this could be the intro.
Okay.
Woo!
Yeah!
Welcome to the first ever episode of the Weekly Puck Off, brought to you by Boudreezy and Colt 45. I'm your host, Colt 45. To my immediate left is Boudreezy, and we're here to bring you your number one source of NHL general discussion, fantasy advice, and more once a week on Wednesdays.
Nice intro.
Thank you. I'm just gonna fade out here. Hopefully we had a lot of red bars there. I hope that wasn't too loud. But for our viewers, this is our first podcast, so if we have any viewers or listeners, I should say, just be aware that any sound issues you can blame on producer Connor. Other than that, Steve and I are here to spill the deets about the NHL.
Indeed we are.
So what have we got on our plate today other than the Stone Air pizza?
It's damn good pizza too, if I do say so myself.
Mine's a little cold.
That intro was so good, Colton, that I felt like you just won the opening face-off in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Speaking of which, it's been 5 months since said final, and the season, it's finally started. How exciting is this? We have a producer here helping us out with this show. Connor.
Yeah.
If you'd like to introduce yourself, we call him Coach.
My name's Connor.
And I
think
you said it best when you said that it's felt like a decade since we've gotten the chance to watch hockey that's actually meant something.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
yes,
very exciting. What do you think of the season so far, Colt?
It's actually Connor and I went out last night to a local establishment with cheap beer.
Couple beers.
Had a couple ales, watched a bit of the games, and
whiskey.
I was disappointed in Ottawa's result, but I mean overall there's good hockey. It looks like Pittsburgh's coming out firing as usual with Crosby and this year it's Hornquist, I guess, who's going to light it up with him.
I got raped fantasy-wise.
Oh, me too.
Bent over.
Me too. My bum still hurts.
Almost as much as the result of my bowl spray last night.
Oh.
Man, the Ring of Fire is a real deal.
Chili.
It's an actual phenomenon.
Thai chili peppers and my anus apparently don't agree with each other.
They don't mix.
I think Montreal has looked really good so far.
Speaking of bowl spray, Montreal.
Subban.
Yeah.
Looks like he's got a lot of gas in
He's gassed
in the
up.
tank.
Full tank.
Yeah, I guess.
Bunch of fuck fuel.
Subban,
So we should get started here. Colt, you have a story about a cab driver, or do
yes,
you
I
want
wanted
to
to
do
start
that
off
now,
with
or
that
do you want to get into that a little later?
Well, I wanted to start off with that to lighten the mood, but I think we're already right there, so maybe I can save that story for the end. And
Just say we're trying to stick on the schedule here. So.
Yeah, Connor's our scheduler because we like to rant on, as you've probably figured out by now. So
we do tend to ramble.
What have we got first on the schedule? We didn't give Connor the schedule, so we're already off to a great start right off the top.
Well, the season being so early, I think we wanted to do a little bit of prognostication with the respective conferences and a few predictions. Do you want to get started with that?
I certainly would, and that reminds me actually. While we do this, I'm going to bring up. We have a viewer question to address later in the pod. I'm just going to bring that up before I forget.
I think let's get into that.
As far as early predictions, I like the look of. I mean, obviously the big names are Boston, Chicago, LA seem to be the front runners every year. But I think this year Tampa Bay is going to emerge as a realistic contender. They've got a lot of firepower up front. The young guys have had a little more time to develop. They've got a fresh new young guy in Jonathan Drouin, the local Halifax celebrity, if you will.
Stud.
Real excited to see how he's going to do this year.
Yeah.
And maybe we should mention that Halifax is the city from which this podcast emanates. So if we talk about Drouin, we talk about McKinnon, and we get excited, then that's the reason why. So former Mooseheads.
Exactly. And I think with them, Ben Bishop, looks like he came off a really solid season where he had the number one starting duties. He's back again. They tossed Lynn back, which is probably good for them as well.
Yeah,
I think so.
He really struggled, so a change of scenery should do wonders for him.
Yeah, he should be back.
I think he's backing up Lettinen in Dallas now, is he not?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So we'll see how he does there. But yeah, Tampa Bay I think is a realistic contender. Defense might be the only thing that holds them back, but I think they've got enough firepower up front that they can win games 5-4 if they need to.
A couple of nice additions there. Jason Garrison being one.
Yeah, one of your Vancouver kids there.
Former Nuck. Former Orca.
Orca.
Do you have any idea how, if we're recording here, can we go on to Gmail on the laptop?
I don't think we can. I don't think we have the technological capability at this time.
'Cause I'm really struggling with this phone here.
Let's stay on track here.
All right, Steve, who do you like in the West that might emerge as a front runner this year?
Well, the West is such a tough conference to predict because it's such a murderer's row of teams that are just very, very tough. I think conventional wisdom probably says Chicago and LA to meet in the conference final again for the third year in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I think LA maybe is going to regress a little bit, though. I foresee them being afflicted with a little bit of a cup hangover, as tends to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Gaborik factor. Gaborik is one of these players that's notorious for being sort of good year, bad year, where he lights it up one year and then the next he just is kind of in regression mode. So if that trend continues, and he being such an important part of the dynamic last year, I mean, they were very strong offensively in the playoffs, so if he does pull back, it could kind of throw their offense into disarray a little bit. I was all set and prepared to announce Chicago-Colorado as my conference final prediction, but last night was just a gong show for the Avalanche.
Not a good showing for really anybody on the team. No one scored. They didn't really seem to do anything about stopping the puck either.
5-0, and they got tripled in shots, so
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an indication that they're not ready to start the season properly, or if Minnesota is just that good. Because if there was one other team that I was going to look at to maybe sort of interject and spoil the trifecta for Chicago-LA conference finals, I was going to say Minnesota. When you look at those guys on paper, they're very, very strong, and they're 3 lines deep.
Yeah.
Their defense is tough. Ryan Suter, one of the best defensemen in the league. And if their goaltending situation solidifies, which I know Kemper got the shutout last night, then I think I'm going to have to alter my conference final prediction here to Chicago and Minnesota.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And then ultimately for Chicago to win that and go all the way and sip from Lord Stanley's mug.
Tasty.
So I guess you heard it here first. Chicago, Tampa Bay. I'll go Tampa Bay in the East this year to dethrone Boston. I guess Boston didn't even make the conference final last year. They got upset in the second round.
By the Habs.
Yeah. So what do you think of Montreal?
Guilty Frenchman.
Do you think they have a chance of kind of repeating what they did last year?
I think they're really ready to go. I know a lot of so-called pundits or experts were kind of describing them as a little bit of a flash in the pan. And I don't know what it is about Carey Price where he still doesn't seem to get quite the respect yet, even though he was phenomenal last year.
Mm-hmm.
But Parento, I think, was a really good addition for them. Their top line looks very strong. Descharnais, him, and who do we got on the left side here?
Is it Galchenyuk?
Galchenyuk they have on the second line. Pacioretty, of course.
Pacioretty, yeah.
Sorry, my brain froze. Maybe
Well,
I need an amp.
Speaking of which, I think I might get mine going here.
Get it open.
Amp, if you'd like to sponsor the podcast, big fan.
In my belly.
Big fan.
But I like Montreal to make the conference finals.
Yeah, really.
A rematch from the first round last year.
Okay.
Oh, keep it in your mouth there.
Spat some garlic finger on my arm.
Jeez.
I'll just lick that
Like
off.
an untrained woman.
Wow.
Okay, on to the
We've
next
already
subject.
gotten off the rails.
Yeah.
So those are some early predictions, I guess. Something that might be a little more appealing to fantasy team owners. Everyone kind of knows which teams have the best players, but which teams have some sort of dark horse players and are therefore dark horse teams that might emerge as like a wild card seed that'll sneak into playoffs
Yeah, like
and
an
maybe
8th spot or
Sure.
something like that, yeah.
Maybe-
Let's talk about some teams.
teams that might wreak some havoc and sneak in near the end of the season.
Colton, go.
Colt 45 being sorry, you're gonna go ahead.
Give her.
Yeah, I guess Connor took the executive call to cut you off, so I'll just get started. Again, I sort of also, after seeing some things occur last night, I may be inclined to change the team that I had all lined up to say would be a dark horse. Although I'm going to stick with them because it's hard to analyze it off of one game.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Ottawa Senators in the East. With Spezza gone, honestly, Ottawa, they perform better of late when Spezza's injured. He gets injured, they go on a winning streak, he comes back, they miss the playoffs. It's kind of been the story of the last 3 or 4 years where Spezza kind of lacks what he once had in the respect of being a top tier scorer. Very talented player, don't get me wrong, but I think he almost hurt the team more than he helped them last year. Bringing in Shea Son as an up and comer on the second line, Legwand will kind of fill that veteran void that Spezza left behind. Carlson being the captain now, I hope it smartens him up defensively because he's obviously got a huge offensive upside.
Hope.
Although last night he proceeded to once again perform. He was -2,
no goals.
no points.
Wasn't really the case last night. And do you want to talk about the Shea Weber, the goal by Shea Weber?
The Shea Weber, where he managed to get from the blue line all the way around the Senators' net and score by a wraparound.
It's a big boy.
How do you allow a defenseman to traverse the entire offensive zone to the other side of your net, and then a wraparound? It wasn't even he tucked it in the post. He had enough time to come out front and roof it.
It was
on
a
the
tad
wraparound.
embarrassing.
It was awful.
And Weber's wheels are a little rusty.
Mm.
He's not exactly a speed demon, so evidently they have to shore up the back end of things.
And I think with time.
Speaking of back ends again.
Speaking of back ends, PK Subban. Back to the whole farting on goalies. What do you guys think of the recent admission that he likes to drop farts on goalies to distract them while he screens them?
I thought that was a made up thing, but apparently it's real. It's what he really
It's real.
does.
It's officially made Sports Center, so
It's a good strategy, I think.
I mean, it probably works.
Get them off their game.
Yeah. From
What'd you say? Crease to crease?
Yeah, from
That's
Subban's crease to their crease.
Gold.
From his crease to yours,
Yeah.
PK Subban.
It can be an effective method.
Yeah.
You can clear a lot of space.
Yeah. It's better than doing the Avery, you know.
As I unfortunately discovered myself a few days ago, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, jeez.
What about
Well, let me ask you this question, Colt. Do you think Ottawa has what it takes to make the playoffs this year?
I think they're not a cup contender by any means, but I think they have what it takes to maybe squeeze in as a wild card, 7th or 8th. Obviously, their division, I would say Montreal, Tampa Bay, and Boston are all clear-cut favorites over them, but they can compete and beat everybody else in their division.
Well, I would love to see the Sens make a playoff run. One of the fascinating things about this year, I guess, for us Canadian fans is will there be sort of a resurrection of the north of the border outfits? Because unfortunately, we only had one team make the playoffs last year. That, of course, being Montreal. So looking at the Western Conference, I'm a Canucks fan. I'll be honest, I might sound a little biased as I lean towards them a little in what I'm about to discourse upon here. But would love to see Ottawa get in there. I sort of looked at the Canadian teams in the West and kind of analyzed and tried to derive, do any of these teams have a chance to get into the postseason as well? So I looked at Edmonton first because for years now we've been kind of expecting them to sort of take the next steps, so to speak, and see if they can sort of fulfill their potential because they have all of these young guys, Taylor Hall, Nugent Hopkins, guys who can score, but they just can't seem to break out of the Western Conference cellar, and they can score plenty of goals, but it's like they're lacking in everything else. Defense, toughness, goaltending, they haven't had it. So I think they're moving in the right direction. I like what McTavish has done in the recent drafts. Leon Draisaitl, I think, is going to be a great fit for them. And anytime you see an 18-year-old crack a starting lineup, it's got to be impressive.
Especially top 6.
And top 6 at that, absolutely.
Yeah, so they've clearly got faith in him.
And he's big. He's sort of imposing physically. He's 210 pounds of strapping manhood.
At a young age.
A strapping young lad, some might say.
At the tender age of 18.
Yeah.
So he can handle himself out there. Also, they picked up a couple of D guys who are tough, they're mean. I really like this Darnell Nurse. He's going to pair up with Justin Schultz in the years to come and really solidify the...
I forgot they picked up Nurse. That's a pretty big time acquisition, I'd say.
It was an important pickup for them, absolutely. So with him, and then there's Oscar Klefbom as well that they got over from Sweden. Another big guy, aggressive, likes to go out there and hit people, as does Nurse. These are the type of players that Edmonton has been needing for some time. And I think with these guys on board, it definitely increases their chances of sort of finding their team chemistry.
I think it's an interesting prediction because they obviously performed very poorly last year, but it's almost as if they're finally realizing that they have to move a different direction with their draft picks and their trades and acquisitions in the offseason because they've basically been trying the same thing over and over and experiencing the exact same result,
Yeah.
not changing anything, and now they're finally taking it upon themselves to pick up some big guys, pick up some new defensemen,
And
that might be what it takes to
Yeah.
propel them into at least a respectable season that isn't bottom of the barrel in the West competing for Connor McDavid, which I don't know if there's going to be any teams that deliberately tank, but I think Buffalo might be doing something similar.
That kid is a stud.
You just wonder if teams will actually go out of their way to tank so that they can pick him up,
Yeah.
because the hype around him is enormous.
He's gonna be a big star.
He's gonna be a gun.
Oh yeah.
He's got. It's gonna be interesting to see how he compares to McKinnon and Drouin.
Yeah.
Which out of those three is gonna turn out to be the biggest star? But when it comes to Edmonton, I think last night's game was a real sort of microcosm of everything that's wrong with that team, because they actually made your guys, Connor, look good.
That's hard to do.
And that's hard to do.
Jeez.
Edmonton, of course, losing 5-2 to the Flames last night. And if you watch that game, which I took in a lot of that, at times Edmonton looked terribly dangerous. But nobody back checks. The team doesn't really compete. And that's the way it's been with those guys now for a few years.
Yeah.
And that's why they're a dark horse and not a front runner prediction.
They need a leader, is what they need. I think Taylor Hall maybe can be that guy. This Draisaitl has leadership qualities as well. So they need one of these guys to step up and sort of take ownership of the team. Dallas Eakins was supposed to get in there, new head coach last year, and sort of turn the atmosphere around. Seems like it's a work in progress. So will they get to the playoffs or not? I would say maybe, but certain things need to happen. Nugent Hopkins has to have a breakout season, which I think he will. Yakupov is the other one who has to break out. And Yakupov, again, just sort of indicative of the problem with Edmonton. All he seems to do a lot of the time is just park himself to the right side of the net and wait for somebody to pass him so he can whip his one-timer. And he's got a lethal one-timer, but it's like, do something else.
Yeah.
It's like it's like he's on a street corner begging for change. Someone to pass him the puck. Like, do something else. Back check occasionally. So if he emerges, Scrivens as well seemed to be a good sort of short-term fix for them, but he was a little bit Swiss cheese last night.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that they lost is he, I think 5 goals on 26 shots is not very good. And if they can find that team chemistry, then they have a shot at making the playoffs. If not, then they're 2 to 3 years away.
Yeah.
Again, which is what we've been saying for years.
So overall, I would say Ottawa and Edmonton, not front runners,
Dark horses.
might make the playoffs if the right things happen.
Exactly.
With Edmonton, you've got the Nugent Hopkins, Hall, and Eberle.
Yeah.
Ottawa, you've got Turris, MacArthur, and Ryan. That new contract for Bobby Ryan. You got Carlson on the back end. Lacking a bit of depth in both teams, but they've got enough potential that they could make a run at a wild card spot maybe late in the season.
Well summarized.
All right,
Let's,
so moving on. What's next there, Connor?
Let's go dark horse players.
Dark horse
Who
players.
do you want for fantasy? Dark horse, you know?
Just
A
quickly,
good
like
pick, good
maybe
pickup.
maybe
Let's
like
hear
a
it.
fire 'em off a minute for
Fire
player.
'em off, yeah. Let's hear it.
All right.
Go.
I guess I'll start with one. It's an Eastern Conference player. I tend to lean towards the East with my predictions because I know Steve knows more about the West.
The East analyst.
I'm going with Braden Holtby
Okay.
as a goalie who some people might not have even picked in their draft after his weak season last year. Washington, with Barry Trotz as their coach, is going to be a lot more defensive-minded, which will obviously tailor towards better save percentages and goals against average for the goaltenders. Right off the bat, that's great news for Holtby, so he'll be letting in fewer pucks with stronger defense. Not only that, but I think Washington has improved in the offseason. They acquired Niskanen and Orpik on defense, which is certainly going to help their cause. Holtby almost, I want to say, was sort of a sophomore slump last year because he really hadn't done much in the NHL prior to that. He got thrown in near the end of the year when, I forget who their goalie was at the time.
Yeah.
Might have been Backstrom or Neuwirth either got hurt or wasn't playing well. Holtby got thrown in for the playoffs and really stood on his head for the Capitals for quite a while.
He sure did.
So if he can return to that form, there's certainly a chance he'll do so. I'd say he is a sleeper pick for me in the East.
Okay.
I like that pick. I like that pick.
I think I know who Steve's is.
Well, I was going to go with a couple of Flames there, Connor.
Okay, well, let's leave them out of this.
Johnny Gaudreau being one.
Yeah.
But I just don't get a warm, fuzzy feeling about Calgary.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. You know,
it's been years.
I want to pull for them, and I want to think that they're going to make it to the playoffs and all that. But Calgary, to me, right now, is a team that they're almost like a kick-ass rock band that has a terrible lead singer.
And a drug problem.
Like they need a Mick Jagger.
And their drug
They need
is
like a
lack of
Bono.
defense.
Yeah.
They need someone that can go out there and dominate on a night in, night out basis.
Yeah,
Kind of like a Taylor Hall.
You think
Old,
Monahan has
old
that in him?
school Iggy.
What about Monahan? He could be that guy this year. He's playing first line center.
Johnny Hockey.
I think he has what it takes to be a second line center and be a very good one at that. But top line potential, I maybe don't see it. We'll see. I hope he can. Sam Bennett, I know they were hoping would be that guy, but he kind of dinged up his shoulder and he's on the shelf now, and
Yeah,
he
he's
can't
pretty
even
well
do
out
a
for the
pull-up.
year.
So,
All right, let's hear your dark horse.
all right, I went with Cody Cece from your boys,
The
there, the
Sens.
Senators.
Did he
Oh yeah.
not
By
get
the
a
way,
goal
there
last
was
night?
absolutely no bias in my Ottawa Senators prediction because I've only been a fan for 15 years.
Cece is amongst my dark horse picks, and the reason is he just brings so much offensive potential to the table. He's only 20 years old, so he's still a young guy. He's fast, he's quick, he's got a really good point shot, really strong on the puck. Only put up 9 points last year in 39 games, but they got him on the power play this year. I like what I've seen so far. Saw him in a couple of preseason games, and I think he's going to surprise everybody this year and account for 40 points, maybe even 45.
Oh.
I would love it if they paired him up with Carlson there on the power play. Don't know that they're going to do that. To this point, they've separated them because they want 2-point guys that are strong on both
those
units.
are
But
their,
if they
their two
ever,
big point men on the power play.
if they ever combine the two,
Didn't he get a goal last night?
He got an
He got an
assist.
assist.
Assist was tapped, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Clapper along the ice.
and 1% of fantasy owners own this guy. So if you're looking for somebody to sort of slide into your defensive squad
Yeah.
and help you out, then look no further than Cody Cece. Trust me, he's going to do good things for you.
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Very cheesy.
Bada bang.
Oh boy, I'm still trying to figure out how. Oh, there we go. I got it. Okay, I'm gonna get onto our Gmail account here shortly. In the meantime, I've got a. Do we have time for a second dark horse play?
Yeah, go ahead. 1 minute each.
A
Go.
second sleeper. Let me just peruse through my extensive notes of research that I've done here. I'm going to go another Eastern Conference player, and that is Tyler Bozak. And while he doesn't seem like much of a sleeper because he's a first-line player on the Leafs with Phil Kessel, believe it or not, he actually slips consistently to the 9th or 10th round of most drafts. And actually on Yahoo, he doesn't even have 100% ownership. I forget what the exact number was. I should have written it down, but I want to say it was like 11% of fantasy leagues have Tyler Bozak claimed, and he's good for.
Surprising.
I mean, he's not huge. He's not Kessel or Van Riemsdyk quality.
He's like
But he might be playing with them. He could be. I'd put him around 70 points this year if he stays healthy.
He reminds me of a good underground rapper.
Well, yeah, he went undrafted. He made the team at
I like that analogy.
a tryout invitation, so kind of similar to an underground rapper.
What's an underground rapper you would compare him to, Connor?
What's going on with the audio
Oh, don't
here?
let me get started about Logic, my boy. Logic.
New album dropping soon, I
Yeah,
understand.
21st. Get it while it's hot. Pre-order. iTunes.
So Logic, if you'd like to sponsor the podcast,
Rat Pack, boy.
love to have you on board.
All right, let's hear Steve's. Let's go.
Thomas Fleischman of
Okay.
the Florida Panthers
Wow,
had
this
a
is-
miserable year last year. 28 points in 80 games, I believe. So if you were to look at those numbers from last season, no way would you want this guy in your fantasy outfit. But keep this in mind. Years prior to that, he routinely would rack up 50 to 60 points. Last year, his shooting percentage was 4.3. Every season before that, it came in at 10 to 12. So he evidently had some
Maybe a little bit of bad luck.
some rotten puck luck.
On the liquor, maybe. Something like that. I don't know.
Even if he increases that percentage up to 7 or 8, which is right around the league average.
Which is not unrealistic to expect that
Yeah.
at all.
So theoretically, if he got it up to 8, he should double his point production.
More realistically, he gets back into the 10 to 12 range. Top 6 guy, they've still got him in the top 6. Florida has a lot of firepower now.
They made a lot of big moves in the offseason. They've got Luongo.
Yes.
Not that he's going to help him score, but he'll help him win some games, maybe build the confidence of the players.
And Luongo looked good last night. So I definitely look for Fleischman to bounce back. 50 to 55 points is what I'm expecting from him this year.
Okay.
And nobody has
Ooh.
him.
Crispy crust there.
No donaire.
You like the Donair sauce, I notice.
Yeah, I'm kind of swimming in Donair sauce, aren't I?
I was kind of gay.
Jeez.
Alright, so let's we got that viewer request.
Oh, right. I forgot to finish
Get
signing
that
in.
fired up. Would
What
you?
else have we got? What else do we have to cover in the meantime? I've got another sleeper if you want one. But
No, I've got a couple more as well. Let's keep
Every-
going with the sleepers.
every time I say a sleeper, I forget to sign in, so you do another one.
Okay, well, this guy is a deep, deep sleeper. So deep that he's catatonic.
So he's like
Melatonin.
knocked out with melatonin. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And I'm not saying pick him up right now, but put him on your watch list. The New York Rangers swung a deal not too long ago, about a week or so ago, that nobody took notice of. And it was between them and the Panthers. Rangers moved a couple of their minor leaguers. Florida, I think, sent Joey Crabb the Rangers' way. But the reason that trade happened, because the Rangers wanted to free up a little roster space for Anthony Duclair, who nobody had ever heard of coming into this season. He was supposed to get sent back to his junior team. He only got drafted recently in like the 3rd round or something like that. But he led the Rangers in scoring during the preseason with 5 points in 5 games. Only got 11 minutes in ice time last night, least amongst the starting Ranger players, who lost to St. Louis last night 3-2. But keep an eye on this guy, because if he can produce at the rate that he did in the preseason, and anytime you see a team clear roster space for someone, and Alain Vigneault, Rangers head coach, has had nothing but positive things to say about this guy, then he could be that player that just comes out of left field. There's one of those every year, it seems like, and this year it could be Anthony Duclair. And much like CeCe, I guarantee you, nobody has this guy, but he's gonna go fast if he starts lighting it up. So keep an eye on him.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's tough to base those types of things off of preseason hockey.
And young
Very
players.
tough.
Young players, right?
It is.
too?
That's why he's a sleeper, I guess, because you can't really base. He's not playing against the top tier players
He's not.
every night in the preseason, and he's matched up with. He's on a line with some line mates who are probably a little higher level than he'll be playing with in the season.
JT Miller and Lee Stempniak is who he's lined up
Yeah,
with
so
on the
that's
third line.
reasonable chance at production there. And if he starts to perform well in a few games, maybe he gets some power play time, and who knows.
Exactly.
All right, 45. Let's hear yours, bud.
Want one more? I finally got the email up here. If you want to jump to that.
Let's
Let's
just
do
jump
it.
into that.
Email. All right, I'll read it off. Hi guys, this is from TAC, by the way. Shout out to TAC.
Our first official listener.
And right off the top, we see that something's going on here because sentence 1, I'm a big fan of your podcast and a long-time listener. And this is episode 1, folks.
Liar. You're a liar.
So we really, he is a fan. I mean, basically, we have a podcast out there in the office every day with all the hockey banter.
situations, 10 seconds can seem like a lifetime.
Really good guy.
The
really
hockey
good guy.
banter back and forth is just always flying out there. So I guess that's
Big
what
puck fan. Let's hear what he had to say.
I have a couple of questions and hope that one or both can be addressed on a future show. Well, I guess now's a better time than any because this is the only show.
Present
This
time.
is the future.
Present time.
After being decimated by injuries last year, with over 420 man games lost, and a subpar season by Jimmy Howard, it seems to me that the Red Wings have a good chance of rebounding and being better this season.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think they'll end up in the Eastern standings? Second question: with the injuries to Jeff Skinner and Jordan Stahl in the preseason, how many points do you project Eric Stahl will have this year? Thanks, Tack.
Good question.
Well, Tack, thanks for the email.
Great hockey knowledge.
I guess I'll address the first one, and then maybe Boudreezy can take number 2. Let's see here. The Detroit Red subpar performance by Jimmy Howard. Okay, so yeah, Detroit. It's almost become a trend that they're injury ridden. With the fragile Pavel Datsyuk is the main one that comes to mind because
Zetterberg too. He was
yeah
injured
they
last
were
year.
both injured, but they did have.
Bertuzzi, Larry,
Yeah.
they're gone now though.
But what that Cleary's back. They signed him.
he is too.
He's for some reason.
Very true.
Yeah, so Datsyuk and Zetterberg kind of run the show offensively there, but when they were hurt, Nyquist and Tatar really came in and stepped up, took a lot of the offensive production. Nyquist especially, he was one of the better fantasy players in the entire league, not just as a sleeper, but as a player for the second half of the season.
One of the
He
best
was that
players.
player that came out of nowhere.
One of
He
the
was
best
He was
players.
last year's example.
And I got him in my league and still lost.
Mm.
Yeah, so you got Nyquist and Tatar, who are probably going to have less prominent roles with Zetterberg and Datsyuk back, but that's just going to help them with depth because now they've got
second line guys.
yeah, they've got more line options. Jimmy Howard, honestly, I don't know how much faith I have in Jimmy.
He's
I know
good.
he's a good goalie, very streaky, and I would look for Gustafsson to steal some of the starts from him if he starts to slip again this year. Having said that, I think Gustafsson's a pretty solid backup option
Yeah.
on most teams. He could even start for some teams, like he used to do for the Leafs when their goaltending situation was in the tubes. Overall, I would say Detroit, they can definitely rebound. I wouldn't expect them to do too much better than they did last year, though. They finished 7th, was it? 7th seed? And
They were 4th in their division and 8th overall.
8th, right, they played Boston.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'd project them right around the same, probably like a wild card, maybe come 3rd in their division, but I don't think they'd be a front runner to really wreak havoc in the season and finish with 100 points or anything crazy.
I agree
But
with you wholeheartedly.
I'd say I'd put them right around 7th.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I would put them too. I think the highest that they could realistically expect to finish in the Atlantic would be third.
Mm-hmm.
They could somehow usurp the Canadians, which I don't really see happening. So fourth is exactly where I see them coming in too, 7th or 8th in the conference.
Yeah.
And like you said, they know how to play with these injuries now. They're so used to it. One thing about Jimmy Howard, though, and I talked about Gabrick earlier as being one of these players who tends to oscillate, and Howard is a little bit like that as well. Last year, admittedly, was not a very strong year for him, by his own admission, which, by the way, really has seemed to motivate him, because apparently he has worked very hard this offseason, according to their goaltending coach, whose name escapes me. Perhaps producer Connor, you can help us out
I
here.
can't help you with that one.
Not important.
The point is, he's
Leave the
worked
picture.
hard. And if you look
He's
at
worked hard is the main focal point of this presentation.
He's a hard worker.
And if you look at his numbers the years prior, 2 seasons before that were both 92% and over for save percentage. And he had a terrible start to the season last year, but he was very solid in the playoffs. So I do expect Howard to turn things around and bounce back.
Okay. Yeah.
So if Steve's right about Howard, I would say Detroit could even push a non-wildcard spot, come 4th or 5th in the conference.
Yeah.
They'll do some pushing.
If they light up, and the main question is, can they stay free from injuries?
Keep pushing.
Because already, Datsuk started the year missing they're thinking he's going to miss a couple games with an injury already. So
Well, no, they can't stay clear of them because they've already been hit. Anthony Mantha is a guy that they were hoping to bring into the fold this year. And the hype around this guy is enormous. He is your prototypical big, fast, and powerful power forward that can score. And they were really hoping for him to move in there. Fortunately, he fractures his right tibia. He's expected to be back sometime in November, but they're probably going to send him back to junior now. Datsuk is supposed to be back any day, but
He is filthy. Jeez.
one of the most talented players in
the world.
of all
he's
time.
got some moves.
In the world. Jesus.
He
he's got
can
hands.
dangle.
He's got some hands. Lucky wife.
So I got.
So good question there, Tack, and now the stall thing.
Yeah, let's get on to that.
Yeah, we'll go. I'll reread the question if you need just a little prompting.
Yeah, sure.
With the injuries to Jeff Skinner and Jordan Stahl in the preseason, how many points do you project Eric Stahl will have this year?
Like the voice.
70 to 75.
75.
Jeez, a tie, I think.
Stahl is, it's easy to forget that guy won a cup back in 2006. He is simply too good to stay at 60 points. And if you think back to 2 years ago, the line of Stahl, Tulusty, and Semin, they tore it up. Semin and Stahl both averaged over a point a game. Tulusty, the most mispronounced name in the NHL, he has to be. For the longest time, I thought it was Lusty, but no, Tulusty produced at a high rate as well. So if they can get back to the form that they displayed back in 2013, then Stahl definitely will bounce back. New coach as well is the thing to consider, because Kirk Muller just didn't seem to be the guy for them. They kind of floundered. Now in comes Bill Peters, who was Detroit's assistant coach, preaches accountability and a high compete level. I think Stahl turns things around. Here's a shocking number from last year, though. 1 power play goal all season long.
Jeez.
Is what Stahl put up.
For Eric Stahl.
And that is
Well,
shocking.
he's bound to improve on that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So 70 to 75 points is where I think he'll come in.
And another way to come in at this, to approach this question, you can look at it as, they're down Skinner, they're down Jordan Stahl, they're going to have no offensive production. But on the other hand, that means that Eric Stahl is the offensive production. He's the only one who's going to be getting points, him and Alexander Semin. So you can look at it from the side of the glass that maybe those two are going to have a better year because these guys are injured. The team might not perform as well as they would have, but point production, you could look at each of those two guys to put up 80, 90 points even if they really get hot.
And that was kind of the way it was back in 2013, where they really didn't have anybody else. All they had was that line, and that's it. Obviously, the Hurricanes weren't expecting that to be the case, but Jordan Stahl goes down, Jeff Skinner goes down again, which is a shame, but there you go. So they're back to where they were in 2013.
Kind of off topic, but do you remember Simmons' fight? Do you remember that?
The little slaps.
No.
He was
doing this
going
one.
like, yeah.
It makes the top 10 for
Like a
worst fights.
9-year-old girl. It was crazy. Anyways.
Just doggy paddling.
Yeah.
He got on top of him and started doing this one.
Yeah, it was.
For the listeners who can't see us, you must really be enjoying this podcast.
Yeah.
Who is he, so to speak, throwing dogs against?
I can't remember, but to fight
I don't know
someone,
who-
you got to be a bitch. So unless
He was on Washington at that point.
Yeah. All right, let's.
I'll have to check that out.
All right, so thank you, Tak, for the email.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Great question.
If anybody has any further questions, I'd like to mention that we do have an email address, weeklypuckoff@gmail.com. All one word.
Send them.
Colton, can I make an observation?
You can.
Your eyes are a little red. Is that because you're so upset that your Senators lost last night?
Are you stoned?
I'm neither of those things. I'm not too concerned about Ottawa's first loss, although they did control the play for the most part until the third when they fell apart, which was kind of the story of their last year.
Cool.
So I'm hoping that's not...
We gotta get you help. Drug
what?
problems. Doing drugs at
It's
work.
just caffeine.
My eyes are red, but that's
Sure,
because I'm high on bliss because my Canucks won their season opener 4-2 over Calgary.
Bum, bum. All right, let's. You want to talk about that cab drive we took last
Yes,
night?
this is a better time than any, I think,
I think so.
as I have this amp in my hand to get myself fired up on caffeine.
It's a beer.
Because we were on our way back from Niche last night.
Niche.
Are we allowed to? I guess, yeah, I'll say it.
whatever.
We were on our way back from Niche.
Great spot to drink.
Took the bus, got off the bus, got another bus, got off that bus. Not part of the story, but then we got into a taxi. And this man, I don't know what his deal was, but he seemed to really enjoy telling lies. Not only that, but his assessment of hockey players and hockey in general, just totally off the mark.
Horrible.
We got into talking about hockey because he was asking what we were up to, and we mentioned that Crosby had a big night. And for some reason,
Sure did.
For some reason, this man took it upon himself to say, "Oh, geez, Crosby, he's overrated."
If I were to pick a team, I'd pick Ovechkin over Crosby.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'd build my
Yeah.
team around Ovechkin. To which I said, "Well, I think your team would lose."
Yeah.
Was he European?
Just to see what he would say.
Did he have an accent?
No, he was straight up Canadian.
Sounds like a big man from Woodlawn or
5'9", 290,
And he liked
driving a taxi, 45 years
He was
old,
a
probably.
big boy.
right
He
around-
thought Ovechkin was better than Crosby.
He said he thinks Crosby is one of the best players in the world, but he thinks people are getting a little too jumping to conclusions by saying that he's the best player in the world. And I don't know how you can even argue that he's not, especially to Ovechkin. Like, at least pick Stamkos or Tavares or
exactly.
like even someone over in Russia that we've never heard of. At least that way it's some sort of credible claim.
That
Well,
really upset Colton.
Ovechkin is not even in the top 10 players in the world right now.
No. Well,
But-
maybe 10th.
I don't think he is.
It would be nice if Crosby could actually accomplish something in his career. Oh wait, he's won a Stanley Cup. He's
Olympic
scored
gold
a
medal
winning
winning
goal. He's won the gold medal twice. He's
won
won
the World
scoring
Juniors.
titles. He's won the Hart Trophy. What has Ovechkin won?
He's won everything. Oh, Ovechkin. No.
He's won personal awards for the scoring title, but he never wins things that actually count for anything in the NHL,
Right.
team wise.
He's like the guy that gets to the dance and gets a chance to talk to the pretty girl, and then he gets up there and he starts stuttering.
Or farting or something.
I mean, he's a great player.
Walk up to the pretty girl, the first thing that happens, you just shit yourself.
But he just can't seem to win the big one. Remember when Russia played Canada back in 2010? How great was that?
At the Olympics?
Oh, yeah. I mean, how excited were you to see that game take place, and the big rivalry between Crosby and Ovechkin was at its peak? That was the apex of that rivalry.
Yeah, that
There
was
so much hype. I was just so amped to see it. And in the end, it just ends up being a complete and absolute destruction. 7-3, I think the score was. And ever since then, Ovi is kind of, I won't say tailspin, because he still puts up great numbers. But
yes, like don't get me wrong, he's a great scorer. Like, he's a great hockey player.
He's just
But
a
you
scorer,
you
though.
can't say that someone who all he does is score, allow goals against because his defensive backchecking is so poor, doesn't pass the puck, gets fewer assists than assists.
Sound it out. Okay.
Fewer assists
Yeah,
than
see.
goals. Compared to Crosby, who is the definition of a complete player.
A lot of jump last night, too. Here's the challenge for Pittsburgh's new coach, because they just got rid of Bylsma. Crosby is one of these guys, much like Taylor Hall, who we were talking about earlier, who just goes out there and sells out and just gives it his all every night, which is great, it's admirable, but it can also lead to injuries, and it can also lead to you being burnt out by the end of the year. And I think that's what happened to Crosby last year. By the time he got to the playoffs, he just seemed to have nothing left. So he's got to learn how to pace himself, and to me, that falls into the auspice of the coach. You got to find a way to, like, not so much reel him in, but pace yourself, Sid.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to play every game like it's Game 7 of the finals. It's great that you go out there and you try that hard night in and night out, but
Not like
save
Allen
something
Iverson?
for the playoffs.
Where he goes out there and plays every game like it's his last? No?
Practice?
Do we have any...
Not a game.
Right now, if we had a soundboard right there, I think I would have gotten crickets
Yeah.
on that.
Mm.
We talking about practice.
Well,
Anyway, I
interesting
think it's safe to
observation.
say I would put Crosby head and shoulders above every other player in the world right now.
Oh yeah, so skilled. such good sight.
But
on
here's
this.
another question. In another couple of years, who do you think will be better?
Tavares.
Crosby or Tavares or
I
Nathan
think-
McKinnon?
Well, see,
I think
McKinnon,
it's a little early to go on McKinnon, where
but I think
he hasn't really been the best player on his team yet.
he could be one of the best players in the world in, I say, 3 to 4 years.
I would tend to agree. Even this year, he could be
This
one
year,
of the best
this
players.
year will really prove it. If
Again,
he,
folks,
he's
absolutely
got it.
no bias towards Nathan McKinnon because
And Crosby.
he's only from our hometown.
Yeah.
So you can definitely take that into account while we're talking about these things. However, I still, even if I wasn't from here, I'd find it tough to argue that Crosby is not the best player in the world.
McKinnon,
Right now, but McKinnon, I think, has the potential to one day be the best.
he is
The
so
potential,
fast.
the potential
So
is
fast.
definitely
Did you guys see the thing with the speed skater?
Speed skater.
Yeah.
Jesus, explosive.
explosive.
That's the only way you can put it.
It was an Olympic speed skater. And full hockey equipment that McKinnon's wearing, like 50 pounds of gear, and he beats this Olympic speed skater.
Yeah.
How embarrassing is that if you're an Olympic athlete and you get beat by some hockey player? But that's what happened.
Yeah, that's like eating.
Chili with X-Lax.
Especially when he's only 19. Or is he 19? He turns 19 when?
I think he's 19 now. He was at Cheers for his
He
birthday.
has a really late birthday.
He was at Cheers for his birthday. I was
Okay.
there.
Bulked up 15 pounds of muscle.
pure-
over the
And keep in
muscle
mind,
offseason
he
as
was
well.
he was the youngest player in that entry draft. His birthday was just on the cutoff that he was the youngest player to get drafted.
I didn't know that.
So technically, he's the same age as some of the first-year players now in the league,
He
And-
should be in first year university.
and he still won Rookie of the Year.
But
And
it's
there
just-
you go.
You make him meals. You make him meals.
All right, let's get on to
What
you
else?
blew it
You blew it.
because I think we're running out of time.
Oh,
here.
okay, let's start to wrap it up.
Well, every week we're going to do this segment.
I don't wrap it up.
Like to ride bareback, do you?
Raw dog.
Like Mike Ribeiro. We
Mm.
forgot to talk about Mike Ribeiro.
Oh yeah.
Well, maybe we'll save him for
Go
another
quick
week.
for
Ribeiro is part of the disaster that was my fantasy night last evening.
But he's gonna do better
Last night.
You
because
can't go off of one night though. Everyone's getting so hasty that this fantasy pool just dropping players left, right, and center off of one game.
Ribeiro's going to be on the top line for Nashville now that Fisher is injured. So
Mm-hmm.
historically, a real good point producer who tapered off last year because apparently he was having some sort of marital difficulty. So Ribeiro could be an option for you if you don't have him in your fantasy.
back to his old self,
Posse.
just banging hose. Banging hose. Left,
Or-
right,
The
center.
was it his
Tiger
wife?
Woods of the National Hockey. Yeah,
That
one of
was
the
the
one of the
culprit.
two was out doing some sort of extracurricular activities.
Yeah,
We
just
don't really know who.
It's got to be at least one of them, maybe both.
either
It was-
being bent over or bending over. One of the two. Who knows? Anyways,
Let's get on to you blew it. She may have blown.
This
it
has
out.
been a good. Oh,
Oh geez.
this has been a pretty good pod so far. I think we're doing pretty well for our first pod.
Okay,
I
let's.
think we're doing great.
You blew
Especially
it.
seeing as we definitely didn't have one a couple days ago that we scrapped because it wasn't very good.
Well, that was like a rehearsal, though.
We didn't need to talk.
I don't think we need
Yeah,
to mention
it's
that.
we're on the air.
It was
Moving on,
it
moving
was,
on.
it was a sound check.
Moving on.
We'll leave it at that.
You blew it. Let's go.
I
Steve.
blew it right there, I think.
So
Yeah.
let's explain you blew it.
Okay, so You Blew It is going to be a weekly segment where we pick something from the NHL or in the news, anything local happenings perhaps. But we're going to try to lean towards hockey things primarily. It's basically where somebody did something and blew it. I don't know how else to explain it. Where they
Pretty much summed it up.
they didn't quite live up to the expectation that they had as they tried to do a particular task.
Exactly.
And we're also going to do Top Cheddar, where we pick something, again, preferably from hockey, but not necessarily, that really impresses us or
Yeah.
amazes us or makes our
One-
jaws,
it's like a- it's
our
like-
jaws drop.
Like props to whoever
Did something.
to whoever earned the top cheddar trophy.
You did.
Yes.
You did good.
So let us start with You Blew It.
Yeah.
Colt?
You blew it. All right. Well, I guess I had one prepared for a couple days ago, but after watching the games last night, I'm gonna come up with one off the top of my head here. First of all, I'm gonna start off with an honorable mention, which I do unfortunately have to bring up for Boudreezy's sake.
Okay.
This is not anything to do with hockey. It was. It happened in the office. I came into work.
We work for a financial establishment that will go unnamed.
We'll call it the office.
You work
Hashtag
together.
the office.
So there was an incident.
And I came into work, and someone passed me their cell phone. One of my coworkers. I look at the video, and it is Boudreezy struggling to remove himself after getting his shoelace tangled up in his office wheelie chair, and it went on for it went on for several minutes.
Good 3-4 minute
Yeah,
ordeal.
I'd say about 3.5 minutes of him trying to get himself untangled
it,
from an
it
office.
was not 3.5 minutes. It was a minute.
There was a crowd.
The video was a minute, but they didn't show the original happening.
People. Were
That was
staring.
it. The video was the whole thing.
Okay.
It lasted 60 seconds, if that.
All right.
All right, you're
Just
embarrassing.
explain what
Move on.
happened.
You know. Okay. You know what? Long story short, you blew it.
Because I got my shoelace stuck in my chair. I have extraordinarily long shoelaces. I have a sort of a name brand running shoe that I bought recently, and I became sort of tangled, and ultimately I was able to free and extricate myself, and it was all very embarrassing, and yes, it attracted a crowd at work.
Yeah, so that was pretty well just me spitballing because I forgot what I was going to say for you blew it. So if you want to do yours in the meantime, and I will look at my notes and see if I wrote it down.
I think it may have been Subban.
Oh yeah, we already went over that though.
Yeah.
That's why I was confused.
There we go.
Yeah, back to the Subban, farting on goalies. He literally and figuratively blew it.
Yeah, there you go.
He blowing air out of his rear, and also he
Into the gear.
When he parks
Yeah,
himself
from
in
his
front of
rear
the
into
net,
the gear.
yeah, he would drink like an extra large coffee and
Crease to
then
crease.
from crease to crease and from his rear to your gear.
engage
go.
in flatulence.
That's a good one. I like that.
Clear some space.
Let's hear yours, Boudreezy.
Okay, well, I hate to pick on Sergei Varlamov because I hope rather that he's going to have a strong year. He was nominated for Vezina last year. However, last night he had some gaping holes in his goaltending repertoire that led to a 5-0 blowout at the hands of the Minnesota Wild. In fact, I'd like to mention the entire Colorado Avalanche team for getting shellacked last night. 48-16 in shots is absolutely embarrassing. And once again, Minnesota is a definite contender to come out of the West. So I don't know if this means that Minnesota is just really, really good, or if Patrick Waugh didn't get the team quite ready. But to me, if you're going to consider yourself a contender and you're playing and you're playing a team that you lost to in the playoffs last year, you would think that you would be ready. You would think it would be fired up, but instead they laid an egg. So Colorado,
You
hate to
blew
say
it.
it, you blew it.
All right.
So
Top cheddar.
quickly. Yeah.
Quickly, yeah. We got a little bit of time.
Okay, so top cheddar. My top cheddar pick is the New York Islanders organization for the acquisitions they made shortly before the season started. There, picking up Leddy and Boychuk to help solidify them defensively, and both of those guys are capable of putting some power play time in, generating points for the team as well. So I think hats off to the GM, hats off to the organization as a whole, and welcome to the playoff contention.
There you
I will
go.
go as far as saying that.
Way to go, Garth Snow, New York Islanders GM. A couple of plays last night that I really liked. I don't know if you guys saw them or not, but Marty St. Louis, in the game against St. Louis, tied 2-2 in the third period. A gorgeous behind-the-back pass to Rick Nash, who had a really good night last night with 2 goals and an assist. If you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube. Behind-the-back, no-look pass, game winner. Also, Patrick Kane in the shootout there to beat Dallas was a real nifty move to win the game for Chicago. Kind of goes back and forth and then just sort of flicks the backhand. Again, if you haven't seen it, you can easily YouTube it or check it out on NHL.com.
Another display of
He's got filthy,
Kane's hands.
filthy hands. Filthy.
Seems to be a weekly hat. He might make top cheddar every week if we gave it to him every time he dangled.
You could probably pick something, but as it is, St. Louis, Patrick Kane, you are top cheddar.
Okay. All right. Well, I think
So I guess, are we ready to wrap it up
That's
here?
it, yeah.
I think so. Well, let's tell the listeners how they can
Cue the
engage
outro music.
in
I'll just
some,
leave it faintly in the background here for now.
Oh, and by the way, I
Follow us.
think we should really mention here.
Hold
Code
on, I'm
45.
gonna stop the music. Hold on, we gotta.
Well, no, it pertains to the music. You put this music
Oh,
together.
yeah. I produced this beat, folks. I'll turn it up for you.
FL Studio, made by Colt 45. All right, give us an intro.
Mention the website or mention the Twitter.
All right, so I'm just gonna turn it back down here. You can follow us on Twitter at weeklypuckoff. Once again, all one word. Email us at weeklypuckoff@gmail.com. I guess we'll probably be on iTunes at some point, but don't hold your breath because I'm still learning how to do that. So, in the meantime, we will find ways to get this out to you. We'll keep you posted. Thanks for listening.
Stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
Fuck off!